someone to clean the litter box of your saber-toothed tigers with night vision, you call the part-time henchman. I am Jeremy.
I'm Joanna.
I'm Casey.
Oh, it has been a busy week. How are you guys doing so far?
I am groggy as all hell.
Why?
I don't know. It's just been a lengthy weekend of ups and downs and whatnot. It's an adventure over in this household.
Okay, I can't tell if you're saying that a bunch of things have happened or you just happen to have your first orgy or something. I don't know what a bunch of ups and downs. What does that mean?
Wow. The choices.
Don't leave it open-ended. This is the internet. Suddenly you'll find yourself in the same conversation as Bill Cosby. What happened?
No, it's a flux. It's like, hey, this is a fantastic day. And then the next day is like, hey, here's a craptacular day. One of your roommates is going to bail on you. God damn it.
Wow. Okay.
How'd that happen?
I don't. I had a really good day, and then like the next day, I got an email. It's like, hey, I'm gonna leave in 30 days. I'm like, well, crap. All right.
Well, at least he gave you notice. It's not like you just kind of dropped or backed up a truck and said, guess what? I gotta go.
Yeah.
No. No one's shaming the fella for doing it. It's just, wow. Of all of the months, summer is usually the roughest month for me financially.
How is summer a month? What time travel do you do?
There's 4 months.
I told you I was groggy, Jeremy. I told you I was groggy.
So, before I beat this horse to death, Joanna, how are you?
Well, today was definitely a Monday, no doubt about that.
Yeah.
It's like you get these emails and phone calls and bombarded left and right. I'm like, oh yeah, hey, do this. You go to do that thing. Another call, hey, do this. You're like, okay, let me do that thing. So there was a list made then of the things to do, and got maybe 3/4 of them actually totally done, but
Okay.
it's rough.
My weekend was actually a little bit on the productive side. I managed to start cleaning because I want everything to be, nice and tidy by the time I have to go away for Comic-Con in 3 weeks. In addition to that, I finished my playthrough of like Kingdom Hearts Final Mix and actually did more in this version than I've ever done in any previous playthrough of the game, so I feel like I got some accomplishments. And on Sunday, I went out to tape a video for a contest in regards to Comic-Con. It's a My Hero Academia contest, and you're supposed to explain your quirk. So instead of just dressing up as me and coming up with a funny story, I dressed up as like my online Mario persona. So I did that standing in the park, which, not many people walk by. It's not a highly well-traveled park in the middle of a Sunday. But right afterwards, I got a couple notifications from my Pokemon Go group that there were some major raids going on, so I showed up to those, but I hadn't had a chance to change yet.
Oh, nice.
So there I am standing in the mall parking structure, people driving by while I'm in full Mario dress. I can't tell if they thought I was really into it or just plain crazy. Either one could be true, frankly.
A little bit of both.
Yeah.
A little bit of both.
So it was just a very odd picture of me standing there in the midst of a bunch of people in street clothes. And, by the time I was done, I felt a little bit ashamed, but at the same time, I just thought, okay, I've earned my Taco Bell today.
At least it's the same, I don't know, what do you call it? The franchise on the Nintendo and the Pokemon and all that.
Pretty much. One guy just said, you should dress up like this all the time. It's perfect. I'm like, yeah, I'm going to do this to entertain you.
Naturally.
Maybe we should also, as a side note, bring up the things that we're harassing you to get for us from San Diego Comic-Con.
Oh, yes, because I want a record of it.
Okay,
Yep.
How about we do that when we come to conventions? You guys can annoy me a little bit, and,
I don't remember this.
Yeah, okay, fine. The subject of this week is, the first volume of the Batman and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles crossover from, I want to say 2016. But we'll get to that after the news of the week, and we start with Marvel news. This is where we talk about the properties that are owned by the House of Mouse that are coming to the comic book pages. And Amazing Spider-Man turned out to be a big seller for Marvel Comics, specifically number 800. It ended up selling over 411,000 copies.
Wow.
Nice.
Not only that, based on the monthly sales for the month of May, it kept Marvel Comics on top of the market share by units, but only by 0.5% above DC. That doesn't sound too great until you consider that this was one of Marvel's few big event books they had during the month of May. Meanwhile, DC was in the throes of the No Justice event. They actually did pretty well staying on top here.
Yeah, that's some hefty competition there.
I,
Um,
it breaks down a little bit differently when you talk about the money spent by retailers trying to get the comic books. Marvel had 38.3% of market share. DC had 37.8. Like I said, half a percentage point separated them.
yeah.
When it came to money, though, retailers spent 42.6% of their dollars on Marvel comics and 25.7 on DC books. Big difference between the two. 411,000 on a single issue on an ongoing series. That's a pretty good pull.
Yeah.
Yeah, they had a lot of covers for it.
There were a lot of variants. I didn't have access to some of the more expensive ones. The more popular, or I should say the more popular expensive variants, the ones that are eventually worth money, tend to be the ones that are retailer exclusives, like Midtown Comics.
Yeah, there was a couple I really liked. Surprisingly enough, my favorite was the Liefeld tribute cover that involved Spidey, Venom, and had all the major characters in the background. I think it is also because Flash Thompson's Anti-Venom was in the background. And
Yeah, I figured that was coming into the picture sooner or later.
My poor heart broke all over again.
Yeah, one of the few guys you go gay for, and he died.
It's a deep appreciation of the guy's deep character and great looking costume.
Notice I said that phrase and he used the word deep twice in one sentence.
Deep.
A couple of series I'm following on a regular basis are both coming to an end fairly soon, though. With the September solicitations for Marvel Comics, it's been revealed that both X-Men Gold and X-Men Blue will be coming to an end in September.
Oh.
Yet Red still exists.
Yeah, Red is going to be ongoing. The likelihood, though, is that most of the characters in Blue and Gold will not be absolutely gone. I'm guessing they may finally wrap the storyline of the time-lost X-Men and send them back home, considering 4 out of 5 of the originals are alive right now. Whereas when they were brought in, I think it was only 2 of them. At the same time, though, I don't think that the characters from X-Men Gold will be dying. I have a feeling Uncanny X-Men will be returning to comic book shelves fairly soon.
Yeah, I've been hearing some speculation about that, and it has a lot to do with the fact that we've got this big return of characters with Wolverine, Jean Grey, Professor X. I mean, it makes sense.
I've read the speculation article. However, I'd like to correct that Professor X has not returned. He's changed. He is something else now.
Well, I mean, he's returned enough.
I still don't know about that. He had like a century's worth of pain given to him by the Shadow King that tends to transform a man rather radically.
And that's probably exactly what's going on. I don't know if you've seen the promotional image that says he has a new dream.
Well, I read the entire volume of Astonishing X-Men. I saw that word that he's not going to do Xavier's dream. He's talking about himself as a completely new person, which is just scary.
Because Xavier was always very black and white in his mission statement.
He was very black and white in his mission statement. However, his actions were extreme grays.
Of course.
We're talking about a guy who ended up manipulating his first student into becoming a leader. Wasn't necessarily his first choice, but it's the one he put it on just as a form of control. And then when Rogue came to him as a teenager, it turns out he could have fixed her powers decades ago, but decided not to because this would keep her under his thumb.
Yeah.
The man has a dark side.
Yeah, well, yeah. That first team kind of cemented that one.
Yep.
And let's also not talk about, the creepy love that he had for his student.
Yeah, which now he's no longer Xavier, so he may actually seek that out, considering she's technically a widow now.
Ah, that's a dark story.
Isn't it?
And that'll go over real well with readers.
That seems to be in these days, though.
Well, Chris,
How twisted and dark can we go with this?
Oh, God. Just
Nipple
enough to be the 90s again.
Oh, I was going to guess nipple clamps, but okay. The wedding special for X-Men Gold came out, and most people know by now the twist that Chris Claremont is probably superbly happy with, in that Kitty Pryde left Colossus at the altar.
Now, I've seen this Chris Claremont reference before, and I'm not connecting the dots.
Okay, Chris Claremont, way back in the late 70s, he created Kitty Pryde at the beginning of the Dark Phoenix saga.
Hmm.
Hmm.
He is the literal character creator. I was at Comic-Con Revolution in Ontario this past May, and I was at his panel, wherein he talked about Kitty Pryde. When people mentioned the fact that the character was getting married to Colossus, you should have seen his face turn. I wouldn't call it anger. I would call it like rapid disappointment.
I
And
wonder why.
he doesn't like the idea of her getting married. Well, not necessarily to Colossus, is what I gathered. And I even talked to him a little bit when he was signing something for me, because I mentioned that I really like his work, and he said, "Yeah, I'm not done yet." I said, "Oh, don't stop writing. I enjoy your stuff." And I just said, "So what would be the next thing you want to do?" And he looked at me and said, "The divorce of Kitty Pryde."
I'm having
You know,
deja vu. I feel like we talked about that either in a past podcast or maybe I just was time traveling again and forgot.
I probably brought it up because I
No.
went to Ontario about 2 to 3 weeks after this show started.
Gotcha.
Yeah, yeah, I recall it too. I bought the X-Men spin-off series that Claremont wrote, basically as if he had creative control over X-Men when it got rebooted way back in the early 90s.
Oh, X-Men '92. Okay.
Yeah,
Mm.
exactly. And God, I didn't like some of his ideas at all.
Not all of them panned out, but the thing is, though, when it comes to the wedding special, that wasn't the big surprise. The huge surprise was that they still had the wedding reception, as everyone tried to filter through their heads what they just saw. Magic feels like it was her fault because she told Kitty the night before the wedding that she didn't quite understand why they were doing this. If they were going to be together, they would have gotten together already. So she's feeling blue. Nightcrawler's feeling a bit, I don't know, a bit befuddled because after the wedding he planned to propose to Rachel Gray.
Mm.
Oh, you know what? This is
Yeah.
this is the problem. I've seen the spoilers. I spoiled myself on purpose, but I haven't read the issue yet.
Okay. Well, the huge surprise though was that Gambit was thinking about missed opportunities. So at the reception, he got on one knee in front of Rogue and proposed, and she said yes. And before
Why?
I don't know. They're
No,
not
I'm
my
kidding, I'm
favorite.
kidding.
They're not my favorite couple either. But by the end of X-Men Gold number 30, the two were married. And in the back was the announcement that several classified books that had been on solicitations for months have now been revealed to be Mr. and Mrs. X. It's supposed to be a miniseries about the newly married couple and their mission to protect something.
Well, I like Gambit and Rogue together. Don't get me wrong, but proposing at someone's failed wedding, it's tacky and it's a bad omen. So
Yeah,
I
but
don't know.
that's very Gambit.
He's tacky, but he's not completely lacking social graces, I don't feel.
I don't know. Most of the time, I feel like he's completely lacking them.
Mm.
Not always.
I actually had no problem with this turn of events.
Yeah, it wasn't my favorite. They have not been my favorite couple for almost since they were introduced. Really, I couldn't understand why the two worked.
Really?
Honest-
Remy and Rogue? They're,
Yeah.
they're like perfect for each other.
Yeah, to me,
Yeah, and it really was a good example of shit or get off the pot. So I mean, it worked.
oh, to me,
It's
they're
about time, but my issue was with the timing and the setting.
yeah. I always felt more like an oil and water type situation between the two of them. Don't mix well. One is completely flammable and more than likely to sit on top of the other.
Yeah, sometimes that fuego is what keeps the relationship interesting, you know?
Or burns it down.
I am glad
Which
to hear
can be
about
interesting.
that. I'm glad to hear about that Nightcrawler thing. I'm glad they haven't completely abandoned that B-roll storyline.
Well, we still don't know what's going to happen now that X-Men Gold is ending. For all I know, then whatever new series comes afterwards will have a completely different creator and different ideas.
Mm.
Well, Nightcrawler's in red, and I guess it is really up in the air what they're going to do with Rachel.
Not entirely, because towards the end of Red, it's been shown that the villain of the series, Cassandra Nova, is, or in the annual, I should say, that Cassandra Nova is beginning to use Rachel as a weapon against Jean Grey.
Wasn't there like a vision of like the Hounds returning or something along those lines?
Not a vision of, but she's been slowly Rachel's been slowly getting an edge in X-Men Gold, and it's been kind of unexplained. But Cassandra Nova playing with her would explain quite a bit of her character shifts.
Yeah.
Eddie Brock and his symbiote as Venom are going to get some new abilities.
Oh God.
It hasn't been really well laid out in the solicitations for Venom number 6. It's supposed to come out in September. It says, quote, after a brief connection to the God Host, Eddie and the Venom symbiote have emerged with brand new powers. A good thing, too, as they'll need every upgrade they can get as they head down a collision course with a primordial symbiote, Grendel.
Hmm.
Huh.
There's no word
Still
as,
not sold.
there's no word as to what these new powers will be.
Still not sold on the new Venom series. Still kind of blech about it.
I've been reading it. It's all right. I wouldn't say it's special, though.
Yeah, you know, and it was like what we were talking about when we were reviewing it and all that stuff. That the book is obviously going towards like this EC Comics horror / war story thing, and I don't know. As long as that's going that angle, I'm just not really interested.
Okay. Well, the new West Coast Avengers series is going to get a taste of something old and something new. We've already discussed that this appears to be a bunch of younger characters who are going to be mentored, not led, but mentored by Clint Barton on the West Coast in Los Angeles.
Mm-hmm.
Judging by the cover to issue 2, they're going to face one of the founding West Coast Avengers.
Which one?
Well, it's a bit of a new tack, because according to what I'm looking at on the cover, the WCA is going to have to deal with the attack of the 50-foot Tigra.
What's that all about?
I don't know. I've seen the cover. It's definitely the cover that's been attached to all the solicitations. Unless Tigra's been adding some PIM particles to her daily milk, I don't quite know what's going on here.
Man, poor Tiger's had a rough time ever since Secret Invasion.
Yeah, I sent you guys the image of her in a slightly new or in a newer costume, and she's holding up Clint Barton, who doesn't look too happy to see her.
Oh, she's not still wearing the bikini?
No, it's more like it's like an updated version of that. It's more like the bikini turned into a sports bra and shorts.
Let's take a look at this.
I'm kind of surprised she doesn't have something more significant by then, because body armor, even in the real world, has come to the point to be fairly thin.
Ah, she got the Starfire treatment. When DC responded to Starfire basically wearing outfits you had to glue onto her body, they gave her a much more modest sports bra and some boy shorts instead. So, yeah, that works. That works.
There's just no explanation as to what this story is about. And I don't know if Tiger's going to be... I was going to say, I don't know if Tiger's going to be an ongoing part of the book after this appearance.
She should. She's been, like, practically invisible since Secret Invasion.
Yeah, but a number of Avengers have been invisible since then.
True.
I wonder if Moon Knight would show up in this.
Actually, Moon Knight, as far as I know, is going to be in the new Midnight Suns series.
Oh, that has my attention. Who's in that?
Varying people that longtime readers of Marvel's occult would know. I mean, Doctor Strange. I think I saw Johnny Blaze's Ghost Rider in there. I definitely saw Blade in an outfit that's a combination of both old and new. He's actually wearing the green visor glasses he hasn't had since the 90s.
Oh, those are ridiculous.
Well, he doesn't have the afro.
Does he have the cool black outfit from the movies?
Like I said, it's a combination of old and new. It looked like the black outfit underneath that brown duster he used to wear. I'm pretty sure I also saw Damien Hellstrom and a couple other characters in there. But
I would love to watch or read. God, I really am punchy. Read a Midnight Suns book that brought all the supernatural together, because man, a movie like that would be awesome as fuck.
I'd be more interested in seeing you watch this comic book. Just put it down in front of you, stare at it, and say, "Now move."
I'm gonna take a picture of me just staring at this book, and no one will understand what the fuck I'm doing.
Marvel's also announced that their Star Wars series of Poe Dameron is coming to an end in September.
And not a big surprise.
It's ending with issue number 31. The original series writer Charles Soule and the original artist Angel Unzeta will close out the title. They'll have done the entire run.
How many issues did it run?
31.
That's three times longer than I thought it would go.
Yeah, about 2.5 years. They actually found a significant amount of story in this.
I thought they were going to pull a classic Alpha Flight and just stop right at 12.
Well, a little bit of information has come out in regards to Requiem. CBR.com thinks they know who the character is.
What's their speculation?
Well, in the Infinity Countdown book, the miniseries is supposed to lead into Infinity Wars. There's been a mystery character that's been ordering armor that can actually contain the Infinity Stones. They're calling it the Infinity Armor. This is supposed to be a woman who is forcing a dwarf from Nidavellir I think I said that right, to build the armor. And
Mike,
because of
before you... Sorry.
I was going to say because of solicits to Infinity Wars #2 the Thanos tie-in that says that this character has a connection to Thanos, people are starting to speculate that it's Nebula underneath all of that.
Oh, wow, that's far from my guess. My guess was Moondragon.
As a matter of fact, Nebula's name shows up in the solicits for the first issue of Asgardians to the Galaxy.
Cool.
Well, I mean, they really haven't done anything with Nebula in the past 20 years.
She's made a few sporadic appearances in cosmic events, but nothing really hardcore as far as I know.
Yeah, with her increased visibility in the MCU, that does not... That's perfect. I think CBR is right on the money with that one.
Well, also because of the solicits to Infinity Wars, that lately has included the words, I should say, warped universe, several images have been teased that have turned into an announcement for Marvel's latest event, and there will be a warped event that will sit next to Infinity Wars as the series goes on. Apparently, whatever's going on will cause reality to fold in on itself, and several characters will end up amalgamated into new forms, such as Captain America and Stephen Strange as the Soldier Supreme, Thor and Iron Man as the Iron Hammer, the Moon Knight and Spider-Man as, I believe they call it the Arachnite.
You got it right.
The Ghost Rider and the Black Panther as the Ghost Panther.
That's stupid.
And Laura Kinney and the Scarlet Witch as Hex.
That's interesting.
Oh,
That
I'm sorry.
sounds better.
I'm sorry, it's Weapon Hex.
Nope. Okay, that lost a
You
point.
lost me.
So they've all been released in small images online originally by the artist, who I believe it wasn't Chris Bachalo. It was the other one. But yeah.
Humberto Ramos?
Yes. I'm sorry. The two of them have very similar styles, but Bachalo tends to be more grainy than Ramos.
I like his lines. His lines are cleaner. He's got more of a kind of a goth look to his costume design.
It's kind of hard to explain. It's almost like Marvel characters that may have been designed by street artists, really.
Yeah.
Essentially,
I like the Arachnite. I really do like the Arachnite.
The colors are going to be telling for me. I need to see what that looks like in color.
And that's actually what I'm really excited about, is actually seeing a color image of that.
Doesn't say when exactly the warped event is going to occur. It appears to be a series of one-shots that will coincide with Infinity Wars. They're also calling it Infinity Warps.
That's silly. But hey, it's comics. Fuck it. Let's go.
And last up this week is the full reveal of the Weapon X-Force team that just came out earlier today. Jordan White, who is the new editor of the X-Men wing of Marvel Comics, sent out the Instagram picture at just before 10 this morning. And
Yep. Caught wind of that this afternoon.
Yeah,
Super excited.
It turns out some off-the-wall guesses turned out to be absolutely true. The full roster is Sabretooth, Domino, Omega Red, Lady Deathstrike, and Mystique holding the long rifle.
Yep. I'm really excited about this lineup.
I don't know. I don't mind the looks of most of them, but Lady Deathstrike and Mystique are kind of hitting me in the wrong place.
Really? Why?
Deathstrike's look worked well in the 90s. This slightly updated version I don't think works well today. Cable shoulder pads went out with about 1999. The Mystique one, I'm okay with the lines. I don't think it's a good color for her with this.
Yeah, no.
With this burnt gold, and the belt really throws me. The technological version of her classic skull belts.
Yeah, the outfit is a little jarring. It's not ugly, it's not hideous. I don't hate it. If
they inverted the colors, I think it would go much better. But the majority of this burnt gold in her skin tone is not working for me.
Yeah, it's not.
Yeah. Perhaps the new artist, because the cover artist is clearly not going to be the artist that's in the book, right?
They haven't. Well, let me see if I can find the solicits. The art's going to be by Yildre Sinar. I'm not very familiar with him. The cover art was modified from a Greg Land cover, but I'm not entirely... Oh, I'm sorry. I think somebody named Raza did this cover. So it's not indicative of the interiors so far. It is what it is. This is the five-man team that's going to take over this book.
I like it. Deathstrike's strangely redemptive storyline has really been working for me. She was really annoying as a villain, and she always had one note. And every time you saw her, she always played that one note. And
That note was
after a few
"Rawr!"
years, yeah, I mean, well, you know what I'm talking about. She basically just she had no personality. She was just all, God, I hate you, attack, 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 attack. And I was bored with it after a while. And that red skullcap outfit of hers was, I hated that ever since day one.
Yeah, well, I don't mind the skull. Like I said, I don't mind the skull cap coming back. I mean, most of the outfit I'm okay with. Just the shoulder pads, I think, need to go. Mainly because of how lithe she is as a character and how acrobatic, and those types of items on her shoulders kind of restrict her movement.
Welcome to comics.
Yeah, I was going to say, when did they ever take that into account when doing their costume design? Like, ever, especially for women.
Well, they took away shoulder pads quite a while ago for women. You know, about the same time they took them out of the pantsuits that they were sewn into.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Further on in DC Comics, we'll talk about the companies owned by Warner Brothers. Well, I guess now it's AT&T that are headed for the comic book pages now and in the near future. Boy, man, corporations change all the time. Anyway, DC is bringing back they're bringing the Giant line. It is, I guess the right way to say it would be, it's mostly 100-page anthologies based on previous comics that they're going to start selling in Walmarts.
And I love this idea. I really do. I got introduced to comics through a combination of like 3 different events. I remember my parents used to take me to antique shows, and I would pick up comics there. I had a daycare center provider hand me a Ghost Rider comic. But
Stop crying. Read this.
yeah, I remember the issue too. It was the very first series of Ghost Rider, and it had him riding, and it was like Nuclear Family, and it was like some story involving like a family.
Wait, was it Johnny Blaze or was it the Ghost Rider?
It was Johnny Blaze.
Okay.
It was the very first Ghost Rider. It was 50 cents.
Well, the first Ghost Rider was the guy in the horse.
That was the Phantom Rider.
He became Phantom Rider in the 70s when they introduced Johnny Blaze as the Ghost Rider.
Yeah, okay, well, I'm talking about Blaze. But
Okay.
anyway, not to nitpick, but when I first actually actively found a comic, and I was like, hey, this looks cool, is because I got bored in a grocery store, and I found it on a spinner rack. And it was an X-Men comic, and I'm like, this is weird. And the first thing I noticed was, wow, why do these women have the same kind of costume on? I was comparing, of course, Storm and Phoenix at the time, because they both had those high boots.
Love those boots.
Yeah.
Well, these 100-page anthologies will be selling for $4.99. They will have occasional original stories in them, but for the most part, they are reprints of other stories. Some of the first volumes that they're talking about releasing this summer in Walmart is Superman Giant #1. It features a chapter 1 of a 2-part Endurance, an original story written by Jimmy Palmiotti. The issue also includes a reprint of the Terrifics #1 from 2018, Green Lantern #1 from 2005 by Jeff Johns and Ethan Van Sciver, Superman Batman #1 from 2003, and September Superman Giant #3 features Tom King's return to the Man of Steel since his For Tomorrow story in Action Comics 1000.
There's some good choices there, especially that Superman Batman. That whole run had really good artists in it.
Well, they also have an entire Teen Titans book, which is a 6-part, which includes the first issue of Super Sons from 2017, Sideways #1 from 2018, who's never been a Titan, and Teen Titans #1 from 2003 by Jeff Johns and Mike McKone.
I'm still trying to dig through Sideways. Every time I get like 3 pages into it, I get distracted. I'm like, fuck this. I'm gonna go read Runaways, or Ben Reilly, or X-Men Gold, some crap like that.
From what I understand, a lot of people who actually picked it up on the racks reacted like that to it. I haven't heard good reviews in general on that book, unfortunately.
Yeah, it's not holding attention very well.
Yeah, but there's going to be 4 or 5 volumes like that in the first release. As a matter of fact, it was announced this past week that Tom King, the writer of the Batman series, and Andy Kubert, who I guess more recently is best known for his work in Flashpoint, they're going to come together on a 12-part Superman story that's supposed to be galaxy-spanning. This is going to be part of the releases of the 100-page giant-size books that are coming out in Walmart. This is where this story will be released in. It's going to be called Up in the Sky, Seeing Superman Search the Galaxy for a Kidnapped Girl. One girl. And as the Man of Tomorrow's interstellar search intensifies, he has to face what kind of lengths he's willing to go to just to save a single life.
I'm not a Superman fan. I'd probably pass on that one personally.
You should really give it a shot, and I don't say that as a Superman fan. I generally don't like the character, but Tom King puts together very emotional and well thought out stories for characters. He's made Batman interesting for the first time to me in decades.
Yeah, maybe I might peruse it, but I don't know. I'm picky when it comes to storylines.
Really? I
because-
hadn't figured that out.
No.
That's
What
a
episode is
shame.
this?
We are on episode 7. This is supposed to be our lucky episode, so let's see how well we bomb the crap out of this one.
Okay.
Woohoo. Challenge accepted.
All right. Well, one of Superman's worst, and by worst I don't mean most powerful, I mean one of his most maligned characters ever, is about to enter the canon of DC Comics.
Which one?
The Nuclear Man.
Oh man.
Ah, god damn it.
Not a fan.
The muscular villain from Superman 4, The Quest for Peace.
With
Arguably
his
the worst
golden
Superman movie
finger
ever.
claws.
They were silver, but still.
Golden.
I'm just looking at an image. They were silver.
Relook, because I looked at it too in shame.
The Nuclear Man has never appeared in DC canon before, but this will be his first appearance in DC canon. He has appeared once before in comic books, but it was an outside-the-universe story. This is one of Brian Michael Bendis' ideas for some reason. I don't know why you do this, frankly, because as soon as I read that, my first thought was, cool, but why?
You know what? I honestly don't know. I think he's trying to make his mark, and
You know what? In staring at it, though, I think I would rather have Lenny Luthor appear as a canon character than this.
oh, John Cryer, I
Yeah.
forgot about him.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, him and his stupid drum set.
Man, John Cryer's been in everything.
Mm-hmm. He's been a surprisingly busy man. It seems like nobody notices him for the most part, that he actually works quite a bit throughout entertainment.
Yeah, he does. He's pretty well off.
Yeah. One character who's not well off, though, would be Victor Stone. The cyborg, who's gained a lot of prominence since his appearance in the DC Cinematic Universe, finally got his own series a while ago. Then it was canceled. About 2 weeks after it was canceled, it was announced that it was still ongoing. And about 2 months after that, it's been announced that not only has it been re-canceled, but the recent June 6th Cyborg number 23 is going to act as its final issue. The solicited issues for 24 and 25 in July and August will not be released, period.
Wasn't there some actually, I think the creator had something to do with it. No, Marv Wolfman said something about it recently.
Yeah, Marv Wolfman was actually brought in for the revitalization of the book when it was uncanceled. He was supposed to be helping to write new storylines, but apparently whatever happened was not good enough, and DC just said no and stopped the book.
That's
Wow.
hilarious because Marv Wolfman created Cyborg.
He was a co-creator, yeah. That's what he lists himself as. Originally, the book was canceled November 2017. Then it was brought... I'm sorry. No, originally it was canceled, then brought back in November 2017. Then DC confirmed the series was going to end with January 2018's number 20. Then the series returned with number 21 with co-creator Marv Wolfman, and now DC said no more.
Something happened. Somebody pissed somebody off.
Yeah. Who only knows? I've seen Wolfman in a couple of appearances recently. He seems to be in good spirits anyway.
Oh, he's a fucking legend.
Well, the 30th anniversary Hellblazer collection is being released with an interesting forward by Sting, of all people.
And that makes
Really?
complete sense
Yeah.
because that's what they modeled him after,
Yeah, I don't mean the wrestler, I mean the singer.
obviously.
There was a video that was recently released. Sting released it for the 30th anniversary of Hellblazer from his upcoming 44/876 tour with Shaggy. And Sting actually captures the resemblance between himself and the character while wearing the Constantine trench coat.
Oh, I didn't get a chance to read or watch that. Damn!
Interesting.
John Constantine was created by Alan Moore, the guy who created Watchmen, who will never speak to DC again because of that book. God, the story between Alan Moore and DC is it's almost like a modern Hatfield and McCoy situation.
Yep.
That is superbly ugly. Casey, you know about that, right?
The Hatfields and McCoys?
No, Alan Moore and his hate for DC.
Yeah, well, he hates everybody.
But he's got a good
He's
reason for why he dislikes DC over the Watchmen.
well, I mean, yeah.
Should we go over that real quick? Because I get the feeling I'm confusing people.
Yeah, I mean, we can. I mean, The Watchmen was really created because Alan Moore wanted to do the story that he did for Watchmen, but he wanted to do it with the Justice Society, and DC went, "Ooh, no, those are our characters. We don't want you to fuck those up," because what he was planning to do was pretty final
Yeah.
and pretty damning to anybody that actually survived it. So they gave him, and was it Keith Giffen? Was that the guy?
I think so.
David Giffen, one of the Giffens. And they said, "Hey, go and make whatever characters you want. Here's your 12-issue maxi series. It's probably gonna be crap, but go for it." And he
Wow.
basically made what the Citizen Kane of comicsdom. Any fan worth their salt should have a trade paperback somewhere. I'm looking at mine right now on the shelf.
You won't find mine because I'm not a fan, but keep going.
But yeah, I mean that's what I'm understanding. But DC did some kind of shenanigery, where they basically promised him that he would have ownership of these characters,
After
and
a
then
period.
and then they pulled a fast one.
Well, they didn't necessarily pull a fast one. He would regain the copyrights to all the characters he created in The Watchmen and the book itself after a certain amount of time had passed after DC stopped publishing the book. I think it was supposed to be like 12 or 18 months. Nothing unbelievable. The problem was that the way that DC had the contract worded, every time they reprinted the book, the clock restarted. And it seems like every year they came out with a new edition or a new version of The Watchmen. They either reprinted the issues or they reprinted the trade, which restarted the clock again. So Moore's been pissy about that for years. But, 2 or 3 years ago was, actually maybe closer to 4 now, was when DC announced that The Watchmen were now part of the DC universe itself. They retconned them in with the Rebirth event, which basically means Moore will never get these characters back.
Yeah, they have him in perpetuity now.
Yeah. So he's been pissed. And even the artist who heard about when DC bought out the rights to Promethea, he said, "Yes, I know Moore helped create Promethea. I am not bringing this to him because any conversation like this will not end well for me."
Yeah.
So he's got a legitimate beef. He thought he was going to have a chance to tell more stories, and he won't.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean, he always gave the vibe that he wasn't going to, that these 12 issues were it.
Given from the rage he's spoken about this about, it seems more like he's developed an idea, and now he can't do it.
Either that or he didn't have an idea, and it's just the principle of it.
That probably is as well. Moore is a very eccentric
He does.
individual.
Yeah, he does a lot of things just because of the principle of it.
Yeah.
He screwed himself out of millions of dollars over principles. And that's not even an exaggeration. When I read these facts, I'm like, holy crap. Like, he won't even take any of the residuals for any of the movies of the stuff that he's made because he doesn't want to put his name on it.
Mm-hmm.
And while, of course, the League of Extraordinary Gentlemen isn't going to exactly be pulling in some ducats, The Watchmen did.
Yeah, and now there's a new series being developed on it, which he still won't probably see any money from, frankly.
Yeah, isn't HBO doing that one?
Yeah, it's an HBO original.
Yeah.
The Flash is about to become the strongest hero in the DC universe, if you believe the solicits.
I don't believe the solicits. Tell me more.
September's Flash number 54 is supposed to be on the comic book racks on September 12th. According to it's being written by Joshua Williamson, whose signature I actually have in my book, arts by Christian Deuce, and the solicit reads, quote, "The Flash is now the strongest man alive thanks to a jolt from one of the new forces. Turning his jacked up sights to the Trickster, the two duke it out inside Iron Heights for utter supremacy. Will anyone stop these two behemoths from beating the hell out of each other, or is this just what Warden Wolf wants?" Unquote. So apparently...
Trickster?
Yeah.
Behemoth?
Yeah, apparently whatever new forces are coming out of the border of the DC universe after Dark Knight's Metal is going to affect the Flash, Barry Allen himself.
Yeah, but Trickster?
I don't know what he may get into. It wouldn't be the first time a character's jacked himself up to face down another character.
True. Huh. Well, If he puts on a new costume, then I'll be interested.
I can't.
That's
I guarantee
yeah,
nothing. Half the time I look at Trickster, all I hear is Mark Hamill anyway.
yeah, me too.
Yeah.
One character who is getting a new look, though, as well as a new mandate, is Jason Todd, the second Robin from DC Comics and the one who died in the Death in the Family story arc.
Mhm.
Red
Uh,
Hood.
yeah, apparently with Red Hood and the Outlaws number 26, he's going to feel betrayed by some kind of actions by Bizarro and Artemis, and they'll no longer be around. Issue 26 will see him abandon Gotham, with Batman no longer his mentor. As a matter of fact, in his new outfit, it's a little bit more stripped down. I don't see any notion of firearms here. It is just the Red Hood with a new outfit and a crowbar, which, if you know the history of Jason Todd, is very personal to him.
Yeah,
Mhm.
does he still have the red bat on his uniform?
No, actually, it's a new symbol that apes the bat, but is more or less his own. It's like a red V with the eyes of the Red Hood in it. It's his symbol, and it looks to be as much an identity of his own as much as it is an FU to Batman.
Hmm. Well, I guess that idea has gone out the window. I know that Batman was kind of putting together a squad of all of his family mates, and they were doing stuff. But then shit fell apart because Batwoman killed Clayface. But then I thought like the rest of his squad would hold their shit together.
Well, they formed a new squad basically after that one broke down.
Mm.
Detectives Comics is still ongoing and is still a team book, but it seems to be Batman taking a closer hand to it, and it has a different roster these days.
Any further development on that whole Batgirl thing?
Which one?
Cassandra Cain and Stephanie Brown?
No words on what they're doing after their runs in Detective Comics. It appears that both characters are taking a little bit of a different tack and going, I don't want to say solo, but they're just kind of living their lives away from superheroing for the moment.
That's too bad. Sounds like they're being shelved.
I don't know about shelved. They may just give it a break. Sometimes when characters are constantly up your nose, they can be a little bit tiresome.
Cassandra Cain's first run is worthy of getting in trade paperback. I will recommend it.
Okay. Last up, when it comes to DC Comics, the Black Label for DC, the one that is giving Elseworld-style tales regarding their properties, they've decided to issue a correction in regards to Batman White Knight. The uncensored section has been, well, it's not uncensored anymore.
I think we talked about that last week.
We did talk about it shortly when we talked about the fact that Batman White Knight will be released in October from the Black Label. Apparently, the sex scene in it was supposed to be printed in unedited form, but let me see, the series creator Sean Murphy announced that, or after he announced that the book is coming out under the Black Label, Murphy let fans know that the unedited scene would be in the collection, but Murphy was mistaken. Sean Gordon Murphy updated people via Twitter, and he said the version will be the same version that was published in the monthlies, rated teen plus, not adult.
Huh, wonder what that's all about.
Well, I can't say that's a dumb idea necessarily, because being rated teen plus means more people are able to buy it.
Right.
Once it's adult, that means anybody below the age of 18, technically stores cannot sell it to them.
But it appears that our good friend Mr. Murphy decided to share the image online.
He did. That's where I found it originally a couple of weeks ago, and, it doesn't change my opinion of the story at all.
Yeah, it's basically just Harley's nip here and there.
Yeah. That sounds painful, like she cut them off and left them somewhere.
It's just scattered nips is what I'm trying to talk about here.
That's weird, even
yeah.
for Harley.
See comment number
Yeah.
1. Wow, all of a sudden we're talking about the Joker hardcover, it sounds like. Let's move on to general comic and convention news. This is where we talk about comic books that are not Marvel or DC related, as well as conventions happening all around the world. Because the counter is now down to about 25 days, Comic-Con has to be as part of the conversation. And by that I mean San Diego Comic-Con. It was announced this week that previously what was thought to be an Anime Expo exclusive is also coming to San Diego Comic-Con. They're going to screen a new original movie for My Hero Academia, an animated film, called Two Heroes, and it's going to be screened at San Diego Comic-Con. The exact day is unknown. This is also the same convention where the creator of My Hero Academia, Kohei Horikoshi, will be making his first ever North American appearance and hosting a panel.
I think we were talking about that last week, too.
We talked about it about 2 weeks ago. About 2 weeks ago when he announced his, not his contest, just his appearance.
Yeah, weren't they making? Is it a comic that they're making that has a solely female lineup?
That's a new
Or is-
animated series that was announced earlier this week, or no, late
oh, that's
last
cool.
week. It was supposed to central, or it's supposed to be central on the female characters because, well, I don't even know if there is a because. They just felt like doing another spin-off of the series.
No, why not?
The last time we discussed a spin-off, I think we were talking about the Vigilante series from My Hero Academia, the manga.
Ah, that's right.
There's supposed to be a bunch of a few unregistered heroes and their attempts to keep the streets safe. Let's see. Also, it was announced this week that DC Entertainment has removed Chris Hardwick from their San Diego Comic-Con panel.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, tried not to talk about it last week, but I guess now that's news, we have to talk about it a bit. The thing is, though, what's the best way to explain this? Hardwick's former girlfriend, Chloe Dykstra, she was one of the people that was in Nerdist before it became a big industry company. The two of them had a 4-year relationship, and it ended, I want to say, about 3 years ago? Or maybe it was 2 years ago. Either way, about a week and a half ago, Chloe Dykstra put a long post online saying that she had been in a mentally abusive relationship. The person that she was referring to was very controlling, demanded that she be available for sex regardless of whether or not she was in the mood for it. One of the times she tried to deny whomever this was, they basically said, "This is the reason why I broke up with my last girlfriend." To which she was coerced into having sex at that point. And she went on to detail a lot in I want to say about a 2-page post.
Wow.
But she never named who it was. She said she had digital proof in the form of text and videos, but she never named names. A lot of people extrapolated that this had to be Chris Hardwick. To which I would have thought the smart response by Hardwick would have not been to say too much, but to follow the situation. Well, it took less than 24 hours before he responded and basically put himself in the middle and said, "I didn't do these things." After which, unfortunately, the dominoes started to fall, because when he named himself as the likely center of this post, that's when companies started to remove him or distance themselves from him.
I thought they had started doing that beforehand.
The only one that did that was The Nerdist. They basically said that even though he was in contract to them until December of 2017, he really hadn't worked for them for about 2 years prior to that. And they expunged their websites of all references to Hardwick, including the fact that he founded the company.
Wow.
Which, to me, was almost as telling, was more telling, really, than what AMC did later, because that told me that the Nerdist may have known a lot about his private activity and just done nothing about it at the time.
Maybe.
Yeah, too little, too late, seems like.
Yeah. And it wouldn't be unheard of, unfortunately, because, what's his name? Harvey Weinstein recently got in trouble for very similar allegations. He's now in the middle of a trial regarding one aspect of that. And his company, the Weinstein Company, which is a movie production company, ended up in not as much trouble, but a serious amount, when it turns out that they basically wrote it into his contract that when he's accused of sexual harassment, he has to settle the claim, then he has to pay the company a fine, and once he pays the fine, he can continue as a CEO of the company. They actually wrote it into his contract that he has an out for sexual harassment claims.
Wow.
That's totally fucked.
It is. And
That
that's
is not okay.
And my concern is because the Nerdist came out so quickly denouncing him, not his personal activities, but basically saying, "Hey, look, he hasn't been here for years." That tells me that you guys know more than you're telling.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm concerned that a Weinstein situation may have happened at the Nerdist.
I hesitate to really talk about that. I've read Chloe's article.
Mhm.
I've read TMZ's acquisition of the breakup text, and I know people have obviously removed him from businesses, and he actually removed himself from all of the SDCC panels before any action was taken. So
Well,
I'm getting a lot of mixed signals here.
Yeah, according to the story in Newsarama, DC were the ones who declined his services.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I know that no one goes online to drag somebody else through the mud unless there's like even a sliver of truth to it.
Like I
But
said,
at the
though,
same time,
yeah, like I said, Dykstra didn't actually name any names.
well, she she didn't leave a whole lot of room for. She mentioned multi-year
Hmm.
relationship. She gave the years involved.
Yeah.
It doesn't take much to go to Google and figure it out.
Still, though,
Right.
if Hardwick didn't directly respond to it, he probably would have gotten through at least the summer with some scorch marks, but not the serious burns he's dealing with right now.
Well, see that goes in the other problem because there was already reactions happening before he said anything.
Yeah, I would have relied on the company lawyers, frankly, before I got involved. That's what I had. I had a discussion with a couple of the attorneys I work with, and it's like there are allegations, but nobody's named names, and these are career-killing allegations. So unless he really opens himself up to it, there's not much that can be done at the moment. And then, what? Not even 24 hours went by, and he opened himself up to it. I mean, not only did he deny that it was that whatever happened to her was him, he basically went on the offensive and said, "I broke up with her. You know, it wasn't a good relationship," and it compounded the problem.
Well, let him dig himself a deeper grave.
Yeah.
If he's guilty, he's guilty.
Well,
Mm-hmm.
well, to talk about hang on. Before I talk about another convention entirely, you two made it very clear before the show that when I go to San Diego Comic-Con, you want something from me.
Yes.
All right. Joe,
Okay,
you're
the
first.
stereo was a little bit terrifying.
At least we didn't do it in the perfect tone together.
Come play with us, Jeremy. Play with us.
Hey, Charlie.
So, out of all the exclusives that are offered, and there's way too many for me to bother listing right now, even though there's definitely more to be announced, what are you
Right.
two hamheads looking for that I'm supposed to be spending my time buying?
There's one thing that I want, and it's for my husband. It's for his collection, our collection, mostly his.
Oh boy.
It is the Green Psycho Power Rangers Legacy figure, and I think it is an exclusive of San Diego Comic-Con.
Oh my
It is
god.
the last Bandai exclusive, because Hasbro bought them out.
Right.
So that's much coveted.
Okay. The only issue there, though, is that I would have to go by the booth first thing in the morning, be lucky enough to get a ticket to come back and buy it later that day. That is Bandai's not Bandai. They're selling it through Bluefin and Bluefin distributors. That is their process. That's what I got to get through.
Yeah, that's what I had to go through
Wow.
to get the Hal Jordans
Yeah.
back in 2010.
Okay.
Um,
No, I hear your request, Joanna. I'm not saying it's impossible. I just have to be fortunate enough to be one of the first people through the door and actually pick up the ticket.
Right, I hear you. I didn't know it's
Uh,
that kind of process, actually.
There's a lot of people there.
Some of the major distributors at Comic-Con, they sell exclusives and they go for big money. You know, big enough that some of the other booths have complained that the exclusive eat up a lot of money, which is true. But at the same time, when you put the word exclusive in front of it at San Diego, generally people are going to go out of their ways to find it, if not buy it.
Right.
Yes, yeah.
Okay, now Casey, you have some kind of request from me?
Yes, thankfully mine is not a SDCC exclusive. It is just a con exclusive. So it's making its rounds throughout the year, and it's going to be going to different cons. But I'm not going to be going to any of them, and you're going to San Diego. So boom, there we go.
There's still the caveat,
And-
though, that some of these places have lines that I cannot get through and still make a schedule.
Okay, well this is going to be for WizKids, HeroClix, and the figure in question is the Kingdom Come Power Woman, which is
Okay.
obviously a much older Power Girl. And when we say much older, we obviously mean much more powerful. And I need a really good
He means
Power
legal-
Woman figure
Yeah, he means
to beat
legal
the
age
crap
to
out of my friend
fanfic. Yeah.
Steven.
Okay. All right. I will figure this out. I will try. I make no guarantees, but I will try.
Cool.
Well, hire some minions to go stand in line for you.
Minions.
I only have 3 kids.
Are they old enough to buy stuff and not get lost? Or,
One is. The other 2 require hand-holding.
oh man.
What? I can't help it if the kids actually turn into nerds.
Well, I mean,
There's a comic book convention in Florida that's actually growing. MegaCon happens in Tampa Bay.
right.
And this year it's happening from September 21st to September 23rd. They've announced that they expect over 30,000 attendees to this year's convention.
Wow.
MegaCon actually has a biannual show. There's one in Tampa and one in Orlando, Florida.
Right. I know about the one in Orlando. I've got some friends that go out there.
Well, this year they expect superstars to come to their convention in the form of Jeffrey Dean Morgan
Oh, nice.
and Christian Serratos from The Walking Dead. They also
Oh.
expect Peter Capaldi, the 13th Doctor, to show up.
No way.
Yep, Christopher Lloyd, who played Doc Brown in Back to the Future.
There you go.
Jason David Frank, the Green Ranger from Mighty Morphin Power Rangers.
Nice.
Sean Pertwee and David Mazouz from Gotham.
Cool.
Marina Sirtis, Michael Dorn, and John Delancey of Star Trek The Next Generation fame as well.
I met them. They're cool cats.
That's actually a really good lineup, though, for a convention of 30,000 people. Those are some notable
That's
stars.
an amazing lineup.
Yeah.
I went to an Austin Comic Con a few years back when I guess STNG was doing its big reunion thing. You know, they were hitting different cons with all of the actors all at once.
Mhm.
And I got a chance to actually just kind of bob around the booths after everybody had left and like have casual conversations with people. And I found some interesting patterns. Number one, Michael Dorn talks to everybody.
Yes, he does.
He will talk to anybody. He will strike up a conversation. I walked up to his booth. No one was at it. I had time to kill, and we were just chatting, and I talked to him about his Captain Worf thing that he was super excited about.
Yeah. Actually, my brother and I managed to embarrass my mother in front of my dad about him.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they went to...
Marinas, I was gonna say that Marina Sirtis has a handler.
Yeah. Yeah, unfriendly cat. Let me see. If you're interested in going to MegaCon, you need to go to megacontampabay.com. Prices start at $25 for one-day badges. It doesn't list the price for three-day badges here, but if you're an early bird ticket holder, you can get a discounted price. Stranger Things is becoming a comic book.
Really?
Yep.
What are they gonna do with that?
The Netflix show has signed a contract with Dark Horse Comics to push a line based on the original Netflix series. It's going to be launching in September. There's no inference as to what the story of the book will be. It's going to be done by Jody Hauser, Stefano Martino, Keith Champagne, Lauren Aff, and Nate Picos. First issue is supposed to arrive September 26th. It's going to be a mini-series, not an ongoing. Which,
Neat.
considering the format of Stranger Things, mini is probably better.
Right.
And remember last week we talked about Sam Keith bringing back the Max to comic books?
Mm-hmm.
His bizarre cross-dimensional purple and gold warrior? Well, Sam Keith has also elaborated he's going to write and draw for IDW Publishing and DC the new crossover, The Max and Batman Arkham Dreams. It's a 5-issue limited series. It's actually Sam Keith's first artwork in the last 5 years.
Is it 5? God, it feels like 20.
Yeah. He worked on, he did work on Batman in the 90s. He's one of the people that developed the signature dark look that the Batman started to incorporate during that period. And according to Keith himself, quote, doing a Batman and Max crossover is like a family reunion with my favorite brother and our really cool cousin. You never want it to end. Or at least I hope you don't, unquote. Apparently the miniseries will begin with a mixing of Gotham City and the Max's Outback, with the Max becoming a resident of Arkham Asylum.
Interesting.
Somehow that makes sense.
You know, with all the Batman crossovers, it just kind of loses its luster after the 50th one.
Well, kill a Robin, it all becomes new again.
You're going to have to kill a few more Robins for me to touch that book.
Well, they're replacing him pretty quickly.
Oh, God, they're on Robin 5, aren't they?
Yeah.
Yeah.
At this point, I'd swear Batman is Catholic. Mike Allred is bringing back Dick Tracy, and they're bringing a new volume of the detective to IDW Comics.
Mike Allred would probably be the one to do it.
The new, I guess it's miniseries, is being called Dick Tracy Dead or Alive. Allred is going to do the covers and co-write with his brother Lee Allred. The artist on it is going to be Rich Tomaso and Laura Allred, with Mike Allred also inking the series. I guess that's a typo. It's supposed to be Mike Allred. Let me see. Dick Tracy is supposed to be relocated to a new city following the loss of his job. Wow, I didn't know it was possible for him to change cities. I thought he only existed in the one city in his planet.
Yeah, what city was that?
I want to say it was just called, like, Big City or something.
It was something generic.
Yeah. Just about every hero that started out somewhere in the 1940s or 60s ended up in a very strange city that had it just didn't exist in America, frankly.
Yeah.
One of the most unlikely crossovers I've ever heard of was announced by IDW Comics.
Another one.
The Transformers are going to meet Star Trek.
What?
Yeah, not only is it that, but it's the Star Trek animated series.
Oh, it's not just the Star Trek animated series, it's the Transformers 80s animated series as well.
No. Why?
I don't quite know.
Don't know.
IDW has announced that part of the story is that while the Enterprise is traveling through unknown sectors of space, they come across a strange planet that appears to be being attacked by 1980s military-grade war jets and helicopters.
How would they know what 1980s are?
The
I don't know, the
crossover should
computer?
really be called Sunbow and Filmation.
It's a 4-issue mini. It's not an ongoing, thank God.
Oh, God. I don't know.
I mean, I like Star Trek. I kind of know a little bit about Transformers, but I don't think that would be a good crossover personally.
If I remember correctly, it's not technically the first time the two franchises have crossed over.
Really?
I think they've met once before, but I'd have to go to the Wayback Machine and think about that. And I don't mean this particular iteration of both versions. They were just contemporary comic book versions at the time.
Hmm.
And last up in general comic and convention news, there is a new Snake Eyes solo series coming from IDW Comics. It's, I'm not sure the character's ever had an ongoing before, but this is not an ongoing either. It's a limited series with a second version of Snake Eyes, a new female character. They're calling it G.I. Joe, A Real American Hero, Silent Option. It's supposed to be the character's first unofficial mission, and she'll come against a character called Agent Helix.
Huh.
Isn't this the one done by Larry Hama?
Yeah, it was announced that the creator of the original G.I. Joe, Larry Hama, is the one that's writing this series. Which is
Interesting.
It's kind of legendary when you think about it, because even though the toys were not Hama's creation, he's the one that basically created all the character profiles and what became their best-known ongoing story, really, back in the 80s.
Yeah, I mean, he ended up creating the imagery for the later sets, not so much the beginning set.
Yeah, but what he was given, though, was the profiles for the toys to create a comic book out of, and he's the one who stared at the toys, came up with not their call signs, but their real-life names, their profiles. You know, he basically wrote up what these characters would be, and he's the one,
grades.
right?
Yeah.
And he was the one who asked the question. So, who do they fight? And that was something that Hasbro at the time never really contemplated. Who do they fight? He didn't come up with the idea for Cobra, but I think one of Marvel's marketing people at the time just said the word Cobra, and basically everybody in the meeting just kind of shrugged and said, "Yeah, we'll go with that, I guess."
Cobra, single greatest evil army ever.
Yeah, I saw a documentary on Netflix called The Toys That Made Us, and one of them centralized on G.I. Joe. Then they showed the creator of the guy who created the Cobra symbol. He actually just kind of sketched it out on a napkin, and by the time he was done, he took that napkin and framed it because of how famous everything was. I was watching it with a group of friends. I looked at my friends and said, "I want that napkin," and I don't care how much it costs. I never thought I'd say, "I want that napkin."
I have a T-shirt with that logo on it.
You know, I like the symbol. I'm not wild about the symbol itself, but there's something about the mystique of owning that napkin that appeals to me, and I'm not ashamed to say it, but I am confused.
It's a magical napkin.
It is.
Hey, to each their own.
Just never wiping barbecue sauce with that one. The subject of this week is the first volume of the crossover between Batman and the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. This was a collaboration between DC Comics and I believe it was IDW Comics. The first volume was written by James Tynion IV. The art is by Freddie Williams. I believe that's the second, or is that the third? That's the second. The color is by Jeremy Caldwell. The letters are by Tom Napolitano. And it's a much more basic story than I thought it would be, because by the time this series starts, the Turtles characters are already stuck in Gotham City by unknown means. And Batman is following the curious actions of a new ninja clan that appears to be stealing things, but they're not the League of Assassins. I mean, that is the story in a nutshell at the very beginning.
And that's pretty much the story as it continues throughout the entire 2 volumes.
Yeah. I gotta say, Williamson's art I didn't like initially. It grew on me throughout the book, even though there are some weird flaws with it.
Yeah, you know what? I found Batman's first appearance in the book jarring because
You mean the fact that
he,
he's a walking muscle?
yeah, he was steroided the fuck up.
I mean, his waist tapers like you would expect it to, but then it's surrounded by rock-hard abs and deltoids, and you're just staring at it thinking, God, I don't want to know how you crap, and I don't mean the costume. I want to know how you sit down.
And with his head, it made it look like he was wearing like a power armor made of meat.
It is a little bizarre. I mean, his arms are huge. His forearms would give Popeye a run for his money in this book.
Oh
Yep.
God. And I get why they did that.
Yeah.
I mean, I get they didn't want Batman to look puny amongst these big, roided up green mutants.
Well, it's also a hybrid style. It's a style that apes the comic books, but is also supposed to give you this very cartoony feel. Because the Turtles that are introduced here they're not like the 1980s version. They're more like the late 90s version of the animated series.
Mhm.
Right.
You know, they're grittier. They have their moments and quips and everything, but they're not quite the quip a moment that they were back in 1984. That even kids that remember them would groan over, really.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, the art style fits the book very well. It's a little bit of a learning curve getting into it, and every once in a while something weird will happen that'll make you laugh yourself stupid just staring at the panel. But I found it very well fitting for the story that's being told. And actually, I gotta give Tynion a lot of credit, because he made these characters fit together way better than they ever should have.
Yeah, I actually had my doubts about them when you just said the title and who was in it.
Oh yeah, it sounds stupid.
Right, but it actually works.
I mean, even in the first issue, when the Turtles and Batman had not met yet, but several of the side characters or victims were relating one to the other, and both of them talked about how outlandish it was, except the victims acted fairly normal about it. And I just hadn't really considered how unusual Gotham City is, and how strangely normal just 4 anthropomorphic turtles would be in the DC universe. This is not the
Right.
strangest thing these people have ever seen in their lives.
I mean, it's Gotham City. We've seen some things.
I'm pretty sure that's why they brought in Killer Croc.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I still wonder about the tax brackets in Gotham, because whoever is fixing the city has to be spending a mint, like, weekly.
And making it.
Very much so. I gotta say, in the first issue, though, the design of the Batmobile for this one was really jarring.
How so?
It's kind of like the early 2000s version. It's still a car at this point. It hasn't turned into a tank yet. But it doesn't look like a bat to me. It looks like a cat that had, I don't know, a roach's jowls inserted into its mouth.
Yeah, the front was a little weird.
Yeah, well, there's so many weird things about this book. You know,
Alfred looked pretty normal.
he did. And when they did headshots of Bruce, he looked sound. He
Yeah.
looked like Batman.
Yeah.
It worked.
Mm-hmm.
It's just that when they started showcasing everything else,
I don't know. I enjoyed the art. The further I got into the story, the more I leaned into it, and just the more fun the whole thing became.
it's also the more polished that they made Batman. And after the super flexed out, roided picture, they started tapering him down, getting rid of like the massive shoulders and the massive man boobs and
You know,
massives.
I don't know. I mean, as massive as Bruce Wayne was throughout this book, to me that was kind of the fun. It almost seemed like Williamson was daring himself. You know, how big can I make him and still make him function as a human being?
Yeah, I'm sure that this book was really not meant for Batman fans. I'm gonna say that this book was not written for a Batman fan to go, ooh.
I don't know. It seemed like a
Right.
pretty contemporary version of Batman. There wasn't anything truly unusual about him other than his size, mass, his ripped bod, basically.
He was ripped.
The other thing that this book kind of surprised me with was I was actually excited for any confrontation between Shredder and Batman. I hadn't considered how, I don't know, almost equal these characters are when it comes to physicality.
Yeah, they teased that fight, and I was like, yes, I need this in my life.
was better than the build-up to a wrestling pay-per-view, frankly. They just kept pushing it and pushing it until finally you were practically salivating for it by the 6th issue.
Mm-hmm. I think the build-up was good for it.
Yeah. The look of the turtles was really good in this book.
Oh yeah.
No, there's no debating that. There's no debating that. Guy that drew this has drawn turtles before.
Oh, but I mean, even the
Of the
weird...
mutant variety.
Yeah, the weird little subtleties, though. I mean, the freckles on some of the characters, Raphael's ripped and matted bandana.
Mm-hmm.
You know, just the little details he put in there was very telling. Even the strange buck teeth he gave Donatello. Everyone had personality in them that came through extremely well. Splinter looked like an aging German Shepherd, though.
Yes. Especially during the Origin 2-pager.
Yeah.
I thought he looked like a, I don't know, furry Pomeranian. I don't know, just long in the snout.
Yeah. I think, though...
Long in the snout.
I think towards the end of the first issue, though, Tynion was having fun with us, because twice, Batman, when he encountered the Shredder and the Turtles, he just gave a one-word, Turtles, when he stared at them. I thought he was turning into a Joel Schumacher Bane for a moment there.
Or perhaps a Resident Evil reference. Stars.
Or he's just sitting there like, turtles.
Yeah.
I'm still drinking it all in.
Yeah, like this is of everything I've seen in Gotham, turtles.
I know. That could have been interpreted a number of different ways. Maybe it's Batman just exasperated, going, "This is what I'm dealing with today."
Yeah.
But
has to be Tuesday.
Yeah, there's just so many ways to read into it. But the beginning of the second issue, though, when Michelangelo was put through a window in a pizza shop and screaming, "Everybody run! There's a crazy guy in a batsuit trying to kill us!"
Yeah.
The world of turtles.
That's just what I liked about the first issues of this book, was that both of the characters really were not hamstrung, but they were surprised by the absurdity of their opponents.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Batman's staring at mutant turtles, and turtles are staring at crazy guy in bat costume, which in their universe is actually unusual.
Right.
So, I mean, was there like a dimensional jump I'm not aware of that occurred in this book to kind of put them two together, or did they just pull a Superman Spider-Man where they're just automatically in the same world and there's no explanation for it?
No, they explained early in the book via dialogue that the turtles followed Shredder through an interdimensional portal and they were stuck.
Mm-hmm.
Something that was set up by Krang, actually, from their universe.
Of course it was.
And I like how Tynion set up a mechanic where they needed to get home because the mutagen in the Turtles and Splinter system was breaking down because it basically wasn't meant to exist here.
Right. That was interesting. That kind of pushed the story and compelled them to act instead of just hanging out in the Batcave eating pizza and playing video games.
Which they did do.
A little bit.
Yeah.
They would have stayed, I'm sure.
The fight actually between the Batman and the Turtles in the second issue had the first major graphical error I could find in this book.
Oh.
Yeah, in the midst of the fight, Batman had disarmed or knocked out 3 of the 4. It was just him and Leonardo left, and he was fighting with one of Raphael's size. Mid-fight, he had broken at least one of Leonardo's katanas. But later in the issue, let alone later in the series, swords were fine.
Oh, yeah.
He had spares.
Of course he did. You know, you keep a number of things in those shells.
He's got like 6 of those damn things.
Tucked away in the shell, obviously.
Yes.
And the
folded that sumbitch up like Kurgan style.
Okay, whatever. You get. I mean, you talk about the story not stretching before, and all of a sudden, this is cool.
Mm-hmm.
But when the characters broke up their fight, went their separate directions, and were trying to piece out what each of them might mean to each other, that was somewhat interesting. To watch both fictional groups of characters try to rationalize what they'd just seen.
Yeah, that was interesting.
I gotta say, though, this was a scene where I was just kind of convinced that Williamson was playing with us with the art. When Bruce Wayne is standing there in a tactical turtleneck from Archer and black pants. And after Lucius Fox left the scene, there he is trying to bend his arms and ponder, but somehow his arms are so massive it doesn't look like they're bending. I mean, Jesus Christ, it looks like he's running Pilates 24/7 in this book.
Mm-hmm.
More Pilates.
Expert Pilates. But it did kind of it was almost funny how quickly Splinter managed to follow the Batman and figure out his secret identity on his own, compared to how many villains in Gotham City have attempted this?
All of them.
And they managed to get what, like a classic. God, I want to say Pinocchio, Penguin in this.
That was interesting. You knew that Shredder was going to meet up with somebody in Bruce Wayne's Rogues Gallery sooner or later. The Penguin was an interesting character to use in this. The numbers of possibilities, because in the beginning I didn't think too much of it, but now that I've had a chance to process it through my brain, the Penguin is a character that could stand with Shredder but not outshine him for his introduction into the story. It was a good choice overall. If it was somebody like Joker or even Killer Croc or Mr. Freeze, the Shredder would have taken an immediate backseat in most readers' mind. But the Penguin is not a big threat to his stature, I guess would be the right word.
Nah, not really.
And even then, the first deal he makes, he almost immediately double crosses him. How very Shredder.
Of course.
At least this wasn't the 1986 Shredder, the guy who was the dad in the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air and constantly whining about every freaking thing.
Yeah, forgot about that.
It's amazing the weird things you learn when you grow up, isn't it?
Yeah.
Well, the first Shredder I was exposed to was in the Eastman and Laird books when they killed him in a trash dumpster.
Mm.
Yeah, it's the same way he went in the first movie.
Yeah, I mean this is back when the Turtles all had red bandanas.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and they were black and white.
Yeah, very very Frank Miller-esque.
Interesting. I was never big into Turtles, rather.
Yeah, the original Turtles
knew
comic
of them.
book wasn't even supposed to be that cartoony. It was basically not a farce, but it just kind of aped classic black and white karate and kung fu films.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was heavily spoofing Daredevil at the time.
Mhm.
That's what its target was. It was going to make this ridiculous, off-the-wall Daredevil thing, and they took the hand, made it the foot, give those hard Frank Miller lines.
Yeah.
And
Stick
the
became
Turtles,
Splinter.
The Turtles were hardcore. They murdered folks. They were not happy. They were angry all the time.
Yeah, they were so angsty they could have been Power Rangers.
Yeah, it wasn't until the cartoon showed up, and then they decided, well, how the hell are we going to tell these turtles apart? Because Americans can't possibly look at their weapons.
Of course
And
not.
that's and that's the reason why they changed 3 of their bandana colors.
To be fair, though, if they kept the colors the same, all people would have asked is, when did they trade weapons?
Right.
Good
That's
point.
fair.
People are that naive, unfortunately.
No, I was going to continue on and say that HeroClix actually made a set of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and one of their chase sets was the all-red bandana group.
You were talking about team-ups, and you mentioned the Power Rangers. Does anybody else remember the Power Rangers and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles crossover? Live-action Turtles?
Yes.
No.
Is everyone else trying to forget it?
No, that was
I
one
have
of those
that image
Saturday...
burned in my head of them doing a fist bump or a handshake of some sort.
Yeah,
Yep.
I didn't do it. Any live action stuff on Saturday morning, I ignored and immediately started to go outside and do things. If it wasn't animated, I did not care.
Right. Well, I watched Power Rangers Saturdays, some Saturdays, at my best friend's house, but and I guess I remembered it in hindsight. I was rewatching Mighty Morphin with my husband, and we were just kind of cringing, like, well, this is the episode that we all pretend doesn't exist.
Okay, well,
So the Batman crossover was way better.
all right. Well, this train has not just taken another track. It's gone off the bridge into a gorge. So let's try and get back on the track here.
Yes.
This strange simplicity, not just of Splinter finding out Bruce Wayne's secret identity, but the fact that he and the Turtles just took a back door into the Batcave.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Not impossible, but at the same time, it's just... I'm surprised it wasn't filled with cement or something.
Right.
And, geez, when Batman and the Turtles actually teamed up in late in the 3rd issue there, that was the fight I was waiting for, but it didn't have the outcome I expected. With the scientist that could get the Turtles home before their mutagen runs out, was it killed?
Mm-hmm.
He never made it out
There was
to
an
Alfred.
explosive.
Yeah, in his head, that's right.
Yeah.
Then the Shredder blew up the portal just to be that much more of a dick, and was convinced that not only could he build another portal, but he's going to take over Gotham in addition to everything else.
So what I'm hearing is Shredder decided, hey, I'm gonna do this trans-dimensional portal thing too, and this will work out for me.
Well, he
An
just
entire universe full of superheroes.
he just figured he could build it somewhere else. And for
Well,
we still don't know.
Shredder's not too smart.
Yeah, we still don't know what universe this is. This could be a universe where just Batman exists.
Or how about the universe where Batman completely shits on you the entire time, like Batman Spawn?
Well, he does hang upside down, and guano is a thing, so that's possible.
God, I remember reading that because there was a Batman Spawn and there was a Spawn Batman, and
How the hell is this train
McFarlane
going
was
off the rails
such-
again?
it's just happening. McFarlane was such a fanboy of this crossover that he made it canon in his own universe, and made the Batarang wound on Spawn's face present for like 2 years.
really?
Yeah.
Well,
But basically, the whole book was just Batman shitting on Spawn for like 3/4 of the book.
well, that's all he's doing in what do you call it? The frickin' Superman Dr. Manhattan event going on right now anyway, so
Oh, are they finally doing something a bit more direct with Dr. Manhattan? I didn't know they had gotten to that point yet.
they had not, but Batman spent all this time not believing Rorschach and locking him up in Arkham, but that's another story. When Shredder betrayed everybody and thought he was getting away in a helicopter, but it turned out that helicopter had Ra's al Ghul in it. That was one of those turn of events that was so simple, but I'm surprised I hadn't seen it coming earlier.
Right.
The two ninja masters of different universes having a face-to-face.
At that point, I'm just like, great.
Pretty much.
Bye, Gotham.
It is one of those things that's extremely simple, but very terrifying if you start to measure out what everybody's capable of.
Oh, yeah, because he's intimidating. He's calculating. He's intelligent.
It was also right around that time that Damian showed up and kind of clued you in that this Batman was probably the main universe Batman, or at least something very, very close to it.
Right.
I still don't know which version we're talking about here. I enjoyed Alfred getting a stack of pizza boxes and nearly getting run over by Michelangelo on accident.
Yeah,
Oh,
that
God.
was cute.
I actually checked out right there.
Oh, the expression
Why?
that... I don't know, the expression that Williamson put on his face, I think Alfred was just pining for the
Okay.
days when he was dealing with teenage boys and not teenage turtles.
Right.
I was gonna wait until we started reviewing this, but obviously, since we're just gonna mix it up a bit, I'm not a fan of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I'm not a fan of Batman, and I'm sure as shit not a fan of his crossovers.
I'm not a fan of either one, but this book was enjoyable.
It was boring as hell to me.
You can be such a snob, man.
I am an elitist. I swear to God, I am. I freely admit this. I'm a damaged persona. I know this. I know this, but I can't change it. I'm a comic snob. And
Knowing is half the battle.
It really is. And I'm hoping that by outing myself in this very public manner that I'll somehow change this behavior. But unfortunately, until that happens, Dullsville.
I really enjoyed the next scene of Batman and Leonardo training.
Yeah, I thought that was interesting. And he was training with him kind of similar to how he would take, what's his name? Dick Grayson under his wing a little bit. I saw that kind of fathering, here, let me impart some wisdom, let's train kind of thing.
But at the same
was
time,
interesting.
no matter which Robin you're talking about, none of them got the upper hand in the first training bout like Leonardo did.
Yeah, I thought that was pretty satisfying.
I wonder if when Warner Brothers at the time read this book, I wonder if they thought about whether or not they were going to keep that scene in. Because Warner Brothers and DC like to lean into the invincibility of Batman as a fighter.
Right.
Yeah, to some degree. I mean, yeah, I could see that.
Yeah, but
Although I saw a picture recently of Hal Jordan decking Bruce and Guy Gardner being very excited about it.
that was that was Green Lantern Rebirth back in 2003.
I saw it recently and it made me happy.
Okay. Need to catch up on your back issues there, apparently.
I was perusing around the comics section of Reddit, and that particular image has been there for about 3 days. So people like it, and I do remember it being in Rebirth. But I mean, obviously, Rebirth was 15 damn years ago. So pardon me if my memory doesn't serve.
Okay. Well, issue 4 here had a bit of a writing convenience in MacGuffin when Shredder and Ra's al Ghul were testing the new dimensional portal, and Casey Jones pops out of it with canisters of mutagen on his back.
Yeah.
Yeah, does what? How you pronounce it?
Deus Ex
Deus
Machina.
Ex- That's the one.
You know, it actually mattered more towards the end of the story than I thought it would. It was still just, at the time, it seemed too much too fast. And I wasn't quite sure. But the book actually had a couple emotional beats in this issue when Raphael walked away from everybody else because he was basically worried about turning into a regular turtle and being stuck in this universe. But Batman took him to Crime Alley to impart upon him that he's not just a crazy billionaire who's beating up people for kicks, which, yeah, he still is, but he has a purpose behind everything he does.
And he knows the secret of the ooze.
See, you're just trying to entertain yourself now.
Yes.
Yep.
You're just trying to be a prick, and it's still not working.
No. What I'm trying to say, the secret of the ooze is what keeps him mutagenic. So I figure, no, that's a secret. He can turn back into that.
Yeah, but for all people know, you're talking about Batman like whacking off into his codpiece and showing him what's in his black tights.
Oh, okay. So for the crowd, secret of the ooze is what, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 3 from the 90s. Is it 3 or
I don't
4?
know.
Oh, okay. There's Turtles in Time, and then there's the Secret of the Ooze. So it has to be a third one.
You're talking movies?
Sure.
Because I'm pretty sure Turtles in Time was a video game.
No. Turtles in Time was the second Ninja Turtles movie.
Actually, that was the third.
Was it? So what was Secret of the Ooze? Was that the second one?
I have no idea.
Ah, God damn it! You're gonna make me look it up now.
Well, while he's doing something to entertain himself.
It's the second one. Okay.
The fifth issue with the image of Batman meeting Jim Gordon on the rooftop with Raphael and Leonardo. Actually, that was a stronger image than I thought it would be.
Mm-hmm.
Especially with Leonardo leaning on the bat signal itself.
Yeah. I like Jim Gordon's reaction, like, what is this new fresh hell?
I just like that he took off his glasses, was pressing the bridge of his nose, and just muttering, just close your eyes and think about retirement.
Yep. He's like, I cannot stand everything else that comes out of this city.
Yeah. Meanwhile, everybody else, Casey Jones, Donatello, and Michelangelo, are attacked by Damien, who doesn't know who any of these strange people in the cave are.
Yeah.
That was a fun moment, also, just in the moment, because here is a child attacking a pair of teenagers and their overgrown friend.
Right. And also, one of them, like, I think it was Casey that kind of ruffles his hair, like, oh, look, a cute little kid. And he just wipes the floor with all of them. It's great. I was like, oh, you done it now.
Well, kids aren't worth much where they generally come from, so yeah, I could see that happening.
I mean, but we know Damien,
Yeah.
what he's capable of, and we're just like, you've messed up,
Yeah,
buddy.
Damien is a
You done goofed.
he's a hard ass in kid form.
Yep.
But the final fight here, when it was revealed that Shredder and Ra's al Ghul had taken over Arkham Asylum and given Batman's entire rogues gallery mutagen and anthropomorphized them with different animals.
Yeah.
As soon as I saw that image, I laughed for a couple seconds before I realized what that did to characters like Bebop and Rocksteady, and now you've got like Mr. Freeze with a polar bear, Poison Ivy with a mantis, Scarecrow and a crow.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
was interesting / weird. They even, I don't know if they really, if you'd call it breaking the fourth wall, but one of them's like, look at this, Mr. Freeze as a polar bear, ha, and everyone, kind of stating the obvious.
Yeah.
Well,
It was weird.
yeah, as far as the Turtles, that's more par for the course. As far as Batman, I'm sure it looks weird, but he doesn't quite know what these characters can do at this point. I mean, the Joker crossed with a cobra.
That was creepy.
Yeah, it was. Especially when you think about Mark Hamill's voice coming out of that and dragging all the S's like Cobra Commander.
Yeah, hissing. Yeah.
Oh, my God.
What animal was Harley Quinn? I remember that she had a long nose, like a possum or a
She was a
rat
hyena.
or-
Yeah, hyena.
Ah, okay.
She's got a pair of them.
Yeah, she was a hyena. She was the only one that was kind of hard to parse out just by staring at it.
I mean, she
Yeah.
had paws and kind of a snout. I don't
Yeah,
know.
it,
I immediately got hyena
it
because of
was
her
it was the color that
characters.
gave it away. But I almost laughed because every time I look at the Riddler, I just want to call him Riddler Raccoon at this moment.
Ranger Rick.
Riddle me this. Where's the acorn? I didn't
I,
find
wo-
him as threatening.
I wonder if you can distract him from one of his riddles by kicking over a garbage can like this.
Goddamn trash panda.
Throw a donut. Just lob it over his head.
But Batman taking on the Shredder one-on-one in his weird exosuit, the Intimidator armor he'd been working on early in this miniseries.
Yes.
This thing looked like a 90s action figure.
It was great. It was campy and great.
Oh,
It was a Playmates toy.
Oh, the multicolored bat symbols all over it after the Turtles, or Donatello at least, tinkered with it, as well as the turtle shell backpack it was wearing. Holy Christ. I was waiting
It's
for
great.
the 90s commercial complete with the heavy metal soundtrack to come out. This could stand right next to Polar Armor Batman in the terms of, why would you ever do this?
Because
I want
why
missiles to
not?
come out of it.
You know,
Clearly.
I mean, when Shredder like jumped on his back and was trying to put him in a sleeper hold, and the shell launched off with Shredder still on it, I found myself unintentionally laughing.
Well, it's a Ninja Turtles comic.
Like
They
I
had to
said,
put just enough of the turtles in it.
like I said though,
Yeah.
the less serious you take this book, the more fun it is.
That's true.
You just gotta lean
Yeah.
into how absurd it all is and just laugh your way through it. Really.
I started off taking it seriously and found it unapproachable a little bit. But then when I'm like, no, this is Ninja Turtles. This is not serious.
Yeah, I mean, by the end of it, it actually put a smile on my face just because it was that ridiculous, and it seemed like everybody from the artist to the writer knew how ridiculous it was, could be, and just decided to have fun in the end.
Right. But then the characters are still taking themselves seriously. And they do have serious problems,
Yeah,
And they don't downplay them at all. It's I think a pretty good balance because, and I don't remember which one.
Oh, it's
Blue bandana, Leo?
yeah,
I
Leonardo.
think.
Yeah,
Yeah, I guessed right. So he's wanting to protect his family, wants to be strong enough, kind of going through a little bit of a crisis, and he kind of has this epiphany like, well, maybe they're better off without me, or maybe I'm not strong enough, and
mm,
that's a real struggle, but it's also in this framework of what else is going on in Gotham, and I don't feel like it detracts from it at all. It is a balance of serious and comedic.
yeah. And I especially appreciate how Tynion just knew the right times to turn from serious to comedy. I mean, like you were talking about, when Michelangelo is confronting Mr. Freeze, who's been crossed with a polar bear, mutated into one, he just yells out, "Raph, look, it's a polar bear with an ice gun! How freaking cool is that?"
Yeah.
You want cool, child? I'll give you cool. Oh man, you got the lines and everything. A plus, good job.
Yeah.
Where's that?
Chill.
Where's that weird bird with a puppet? I'm gonna hit him with my nunchucks.
Yeah.
That was probably the best part. I think for me the reason why I was getting, I guess, irritated is the best word, is because I wasn't a big fan of the characters, and the first issue does make you feel like you're trotting through something to get a payoff. And while the other issues were rewarding, that kind of set the tone for me.
You know, I was surprised at how natural all this felt by midway through the book. I mean, when you say the words together, Batman and the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, there's really not much of a context as to how this could possibly work in any format. But Tynion found a way. And he found a way that was fitting both characters, but at the same time created something altogether new out of it. And I really appreciated that by the end of it. So, Casey, we'll start with you. Final number score, dickhead?
So charming.
I am black.
Okay. Well, okay. I'm gonna take a few things into. I'm gonna factor a few things into this.
Oh boy.
I do have the subjective opinion of not enjoying the characters. That doesn't mean the product was bad.
Okay.
Could have been better. It could have been better, but it wasn't bad. It was definitely drawn by somebody who had drawn Turtles of the mutant variety and knew what he was doing. And he knew that he was going to have to scale up his Batman, not to look puny, so some forethought was put into it. And we knew that that wasn't him being inept because he was drawing his head proportionate, he was drawing Alfred proportionate, he drew Damien proportionate. No problem. Got that. Not my favorite artist, but definitely put some thought into it. I think for a Ninja Turtles fan, this would have been a lot of fun because it gave them a level of depth, and I know that people, fans of this, would want something of depth from their story instead of just usual cartoon crossover bullshit. So I'm going to give it a 7.
Okay. See, I insult him, and he suddenly starts moderating his opinions. This is awesome.
I'm not
Do it
moderating
more.
my
No.
opinions. I still hate them. Okay, hate's a strong word. I'm bored by them.
Okay. Joanna, what you got here?
Okay, so I'm going to echo Casey a little bit because we had the same thoughts. When you said Ninja Turtle Batman, I was like, wait, what? Is this a joke? Is it going to be too serious? Is it going to be too funny?
And the answer to all
What
that
is
is
the
yes.
setting? Yes, exactly. But I felt, because usually DC doesn't pace themselves well in storytelling, well, not in their movie cineverse. I thought that this was going to be all over the place, and it really wasn't. I was pleasantly surprised the fact that it wasn't. It had humor. It had those kind of dark moments where, Batman takes, I forget which one. Is it Leo?
Mm-hmm.
To the alley where his parents are killed, and it's like a couple days before the
I'm sorry,
anniversary.
that was Raphael. Sorry.
Oh, Raphael. Okay.
Yeah.
And there's that. Oh man, sorry, man. That seriousness, that weight. But I felt it was surprisingly balanced. I would have never kind of put these two and two together. The fight with Shredder and Batman, I didn't realize it was something I needed in my life until it was there. I was like, yes, this is good. This is great. And I found that I wanted to see more of that. And it was an unusual team up at the end, which was a pleasant surprise. We didn't get to that in the review, but I was pleasantly surprised where things went. The character development was, I wasn't sure what to expect out of the character development. So kind of going into this with no expectations was better, I guess. I just read it and we saw what happened. I would probably give it a solid 8.
All right. Myself, I didn't really know what to think going in because it was just one of those things that sounded ridiculous enough to be entertaining. The surprising thing was when you have characters that are in such very different versions of the same type of world, it doesn't feel like they should fit together at all. But Tynion found the threads that are very similar between both characters, and then he started to magnify and amplify them. And he did that for both the serious and the ridiculous aspects of both characters. I mean, one side has walking, talking turtles, which is really strange. The other side has a guy who dresses up in a bat costume and beats up people for a living. Also very strange when you really think about it. And instead of trying to treat any one as better than the other, he just kind of really brought out the best and worst aspects of everything and didn't shy away from any of it. And in the end, he created a crossover that wasn't just entertaining, it was actually feasible, as well as it was feasible in the synergy between both the villains and the heroes amongst themselves, as well as creating a strangely even playing field if you managed to swap characters somehow. And by the end, I was thoroughly entertained. It was a series that took itself as seriously as it took itself ridiculously. It basically be like watching True Grit, and all of a sudden, Sheriff Bart and the Waco Kid from Blazing Saddles came riding through, and somehow it made sense. So by the time I wasn't sure, but by the time I was done, I would actually give it an 8.5. The art wasn't absolutely solid. There were some strange mistakes in it, and Batman as a walking, talking ab was very bizarre. But again, the further the series went along, the more over-muscular Batman actually seemed to fit in with everything going on. It's a good book that requires a learning curve.
Yes. A learning curve.
Yeah. And speaking of which, that leans into next week, because there's the second volume of this crossover. There's actually another set of 6 issues of Batman the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. It is volume 2.
Nice.
Yes, we're not doing that.
Yes, we are.
No, we're not.
Yes, we absolutely are.
We are not.
We are, because it was said yes when we first started this project, and it's happening.
We said that we were going to do Punisher War Machine
After
next
we
week.
Yeah, after we were done with the 2 volumes of Batman Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. It was a 2-week thing.
No.
Yeah.
No.
Go back to the
No,
tapes.
I'm
It was
checking-
there.
I'm checking my contract.
Check the recording.
Your contract was written
I
on
believe
toilet
he's
paper
right.
that I wiped my rear end with, so don't be too worried about that. But yeah, next week is the second volume of this crossover, and I'm extremely curious to see where it goes.
Why does it have to be this way?
Because you're fighting it. Just let it happen, Casey.
That's awful.
God, all of a sudden you're making me sound like Chris Hardwick.
Oh, this is awful.
Wow.
It's just got so much darker.
Next week it'll be Batman and the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Volume 2. Thank you very much for tuning in, and next week we'll raid the boss's cabinet for his fresh batch of mutagen. Have a great one. I am Jeremy.
I'm Joanna.
I'm sadly Casey.
Thank you very much. Have a great one, everybody.